Hey guys, Johnny Quirk back once again here to support your entrepreneurial journey. Okay, cool. So today I'm delighted to say that on the show we have Queen of Glitz, awesome websites and SEO, Maddy Shine. Maddy, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Hi, Johnny. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. Queen of Glitz. Now, this is definitely something I'm going to be adopting.
Look, do you know what I mean? Like I could help you with some of your marketing as well, but not that you need it because I've been on your website and it is incredible. We'll be linking to this for anybody who hasn't been on. So I'm really excited today to have you here because ultimately I think SEO, and obviously you're going to go into what SEO is a little bit, is such an important thing for all kind of entrepreneurs to get right. You know, it's got kind of like so much potential in terms of driving traffic to obviously your business. And it's just something that's really important to get right. But I just thought maybe first, in your own words, maybe you could describe your actual business and what it is that it does.
Well, I mean, I was talking about this the other day, and it was, describe your business in a way where, like an unusual way. And I was like, I get to look at beautiful things all day and tell people how to get more people to look at those beautiful things. Like, that's basically what I do. It's a really bizarre job, but it didn't exist when I was at school.
Yeah.
Like, I often think about that as well, But basically what I do is, we spend all day Googling things. We spend all day Googling the answers to questions. We look at businesses near us that do this, that, and the other thing. We want certain things to happen when we plug words into Google. And so what I do is I work with female business owners who then want to be there on page one of Google, for what they sell, for what they make, for what they create, for what they offer. And I teach in various different ways, workshops, courses, and membership communities, how to do that. Yeah.
And this sounds amazing because I think we all want to reach page one. And, you said, look, I'll get you to page one. But, for people who may be out there who aren't so au fait about SEO, search engine optimization, can you tell us a little bit more about kind of like what it is and, what's it all about, basically?
Yeah. Absolutely. So SEO stands for search engine optimization, like you just said. And essentially it's making sure that we get seen by the people who will buy from us. Yeah. So if we think about, I'm looking for a dry cleaner near me. So I plug in dry cleaner near me into Google, and then the dry cleaners who are located near me will come up. If I'm looking for a wedding photographer, I will literally Google wedding photographer and then the area where I live. So basically that's, by us adding certain words, certain phrases, certain information to our websites, we are then connected by Google to the people typing in these words. That's essentially, that's the bare bones of what it is. Yeah.
And this is obviously organic is what you're talking about with search engine optimization as well. It's putting the hard work into blogs, content, guides, which is actually going to, and your website, I guess, to drive people towards your kind of website. It's not paid advertising.
Absolutely not. No. So I focus on organic SEO, which is, so when you look at Google search results, you'll see the paid ads at the top. And then you'll see the Google Maps bit, which is where if you've registered with Google My Business, then you can appear. And then you'll see the organic results underneath that. And so basically there's, it's usually 6 or 7 results on the first page, which is of course where you want to get to. But the thing is, with creating content, with updating your website and all this kind of thing, a lot of people focus so much on the aesthetic side of things and want to make it look all sexy without actually saying, am I actually using the words that my target clients are using? Yeah. So that is really where we have to start with, okay, this is how we're going to connect. We have to sort of create that. It's a bit like, sometimes I like to use this analogy. When you remember back at uni or college, when you had to research a project and you went in and you either asked the librarian or you plugged into the computer database all the books on this particular topic, and then you would be told exactly where to look for those books, right? That's exactly what Google does, except that we have to be our own librarian. We have to be our own indexer. We have to be the one saying, this is what we sell. This is what we're an expert in. This is what we do. Come and find us. And actually had to say that explicitly. We can say all the flowery stuff as well. We can have the sexy brand. We can have all that jazz. But we also really have to be very, very communicative. And I think that is where a lot of people struggle, because particularly in the UK, then we're not taught to be
we're not loud
obvious.
And proud or anything.
No, it all feels very American. It's just like, what?
It's like, I'd rather be on page 4, really. I don't want to be too presumptuous.
Yes, exactly. But think about it. When was the last time you clicked past page 1 when you were Googling something? I can't remember the last time I clicked past page 1. You've got plenty of choice right there, right? So this is what we have to be doing. We have to be more obvious.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, of course, with the whole idea of, well, I want to get to page 1 and there's so much competition and how on earth do I do that? It's actually then thinking about, well, there are actually like trillions of page 1s.
Yeah.
So actually that means that there's loads of opportunities for you to get to page 1 for all sorts of different things. It just doesn't just have to be one thing.
So it's a great point, because actually, like the world is a big place. If you want to be on page 1 and you write, say, cupcakes in London, say, or bridal dresses in Manchester or whatever, you're competing with. And obviously, I guess there's only one page for, say, that search term. But how would you differentiate that to make it different, to make you stand out, in terms of if somebody was searching for a bridal dress or cupcakes in a specific area? How would you, like, is it playing around with words? Is it playing around with sentences? Is it kind of like, looking on niche terms? Like, how do you drive traffic actually to compete against all the other competition out there?
Well, there's a little bit of all those things that you've just mentioned, but it's also basically making sure that, first of all, that you are using text as well as images, because, we all want to use our beautiful images, but we also have to use the text.
Yeah.
We have to tell the stories. We have to share the benefits of what we're selling. We're not just like, cupcakes in London, come buy your cupcakes in London right here because we sell cupcakes in London.
Yeah.
We've seen websites like that. Of course, they do get the results of getting to page 1 of Google, but do they actually get the sales? So then you've also got to think about that, which is why it's often worth hiring a good copywriter.
Yeah.
There are many out there. And I do think that that is sometimes worth the investment, because you are then kind of saying, okay, well, I know what I want to say, but I didn't know how to say it because I've never been taught how to write professionally before, So I think there's an aspect of that. And then there's also an aspect of, particularly if you're quite new, of getting linked to places.
Yes.
So linking yourself on more popular websites, so you get a link back to your website, linking yourself on directories, whether they are industry related, whether they are local business related, whether it's press, local press, national press, whether you've submitted your work, whether even if it was like a mention, I got mentioned in the Metro over Christmas, because they were looking for some quotes, So there's all sorts of different ways to then get linked, but it's basically by realizing the internet is a giant web, of course, World Wide Web. We always think about, I always think about Rob Brydon and Gavin Stacey, whiskey and water. And so basically we had to connect our internet life with everything else that's going on, right? So just like we like to network and all that kind of thing.
Part of the ecosystem, giving value, that sort of stuff.
Exactly. That's what we have to think about when we're getting linked online as well.
Amazing. And you know what? We are going to go into some of your top tips for solo entrepreneurs and small business owners later, which is great because, I'm going to play dumb. Like, it doesn't take too hard for me to play dumb, but I'm going to literally come in and just go, right, I'm a yogi. I am a, small business owner. I'm a chef. How do I get traffic? So we'll be digging deep later on in terms of some of your tips about, how you could get started as well out there as well.
Awesome.
Sounds an amazing business. We know it's so important. Like you said, it didn't exist 20 years ago, but obviously it's such a massive thing really, because again, life in terms of marketing right nowadays is a case of building quality content, but also paid advertising as well. Sometimes it's a balance. Sometimes it's a case of boosting some of your stuff. Sometimes you can do it all organic, so we know it's an important kind of area to get right and invest in SEO as well. But let's kind of take a step back, because I'm really interested in terms of the actual business, like what actually gave you the passion to start your own business, and what gave you the passion to do this particular niche where you're doing SEO for female, business owners, entrepreneurs, websites. Tell me more, please.
Yeah, of course. So basically, I have always been like really a big fan of the internet. Like back in the 90s, I was a teenage geek and I got the internet before any of my friends, thanks to my dad's work. And yeah, it was like, the dial-up.
So the phone line's going down for the next 5 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And so basically my dad, this would never happen now, my dad gave me a subdomain of his work website, and I learned to code my own little website there. And obviously, being 15, 16, I was like, it was about Ace Ventura, like it was just like a little fan page,
Yeah.
But I was like so excited, and I was like, the possibilities, and I was I didn't have a great time at school. I wasn't that popular. So
Yeah.
I basically then met free people online. And I was like, hang on a second, there are like weirdos like me out there. That's awesome.
Your tribe is out there somewhere. This is what we always say.
Exactly. And it's so true. So I loved the possibilities. I was like, I grew up in a small town in Devon. I was like, great, that means there's so much more waiting for me out there. I just gotta like go for it,
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is, back in the 90s, it wasn't really like I was doing careers tests at school, and they were like, no one ever suggested I'll go into computers. No one ever suggested that. Like it wasn't a thing really. So I went and did a business degree. And I was like, okay. So then I specialized in virtual communications. Again, going back to my love of the internet, love of being online. But again, it really wasn't a thing in the UK. This was like only 2005 that I graduated. And so I was, well, okay, so what am I going to do? Okay, so I went and worked in marketing in London. Marketing 9-to-5 jobs, it was what it was. Like it was fine. I was in my 20s, so I went in hard on the partying in London. And I just basically started side hustling. So I used to help organize fancy dress parties for charities. I did all sorts of things. I had a proofreading business at one point. Like I had a transcribing business. Like it was all this stuff that I had just basically.
I was going to say side hustles are sexy nowadays, but you're like the pioneer of all this. It was like I want extra job, extra fun alongside all your other stuff.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, basically, I remember at one point in my gap year, I didn't go traveling like a bunch of my mates did. I decided to stay home, and I also didn't want to get a bar job to save for university or anything like that. I was like, no, because that means I can't go drinking. So
I'd rather be on that side of the bar than that side over there.
Yeah, exactly. So I still can't pull a pint. But I went to secretary school in my gap year, and I went and temped. It was great. And that's what I did throughout uni as well. It was fantastic. And it worked really well around my studies and all that kind of jazz. And also, I remember it was in my gap year, I remember finding out, I saw an invoice that the agency had sent my boss. I was working for a solicitor at the time. And I was like, hang on a second, they're charging like £35 an hour for me. And I get like £8 of that or something. And still £8 an hour at 19, that was a big wage, because I'd been doing like £5.50 waitressing jobs to that point. So basically I was like, hang on a second, but like £35 an hour, like, that's a lot, So I went to my boss, who I got on really well with, and I said to him, how about I do you a deal and you pay me £15 an hour and we cut the agency out? And honestly, he was like, yeah, done. Like, absolutely. And the agency started to kick up a fuss, and he was like, what are you going to do? I'm a lawyer. So basically there I was, and I negotiated this wage, and I was like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm going to definitely do this. So I was like, all you have to do. So I started writing to all the other lawyers in the area. I was like, right, what can we do? I basically had my first little business then. And then, as I said, in my 20s here in London, I started all these different side hustles. And then everything sort of changed when I was made redundant in 2010. It was the credit crunch, the recession, everyone, like marketing, middle management, which is basically like my tier, everything got wiped out. There were no jobs. And I was completely devastated. I did not do well from this, because I was like, I'm a workaholic. Like, who am I without my work? All this
that was your identity and all that sort of stuff rolled up.
Completely. I mean, particularly in London, you spend all your time with your workmates, either working or partying. Like, that's just what we did. So I just didn't know what to do. And I was given a redundancy check, and I was like, okay, well, I had just been for a 2-week holiday in Goa. And I was like, well, I'll go to India then for 6 months. That's what I'll do. And I went with my partner at the time, and I was like, okay. So he'd been going for years. He was delighted with this news. He was like, I didn't know how to tell you because I really wanted to do this. So I was like, great, we'll do it together. So it was great. So
ideal.
Yeah, it was great. So we went to India for 6 months, and I was like, I am never going back to a 9-to-5 job. And I was like, it was just so clear for me. I was like, I just don't, I love the independence. I'm not great at working for someone else, to be honest. And, I think that had always been made clear right from my gap year experience. And actually it was just like, well, how do I make this happen? So which of my side hustles can I make into a thing? And so then I was like, well, there's no rush, because I had my savings, for the redundancy check. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just spend this time trying to work it out. And then what I did was I started doing contract jobs in the city here in London. So I would be a contract PA for 6 months, and then I would go traveling again for 6 months. And so I did that back and forth for about 5 years.
Right,
and
brilliant.
So I spent a lot of time in India. I spent a lot of time meditating. I still meditate a lot.
Yeah.
And basically it was completely, like, in many ways a saving grace to have that whole experience. Like, at the time, if someone had said that to me, I would have been like, jog on.
Yeah.
It was just so, I just really needed it, because I was just heading for burnout. Like, I was just like, you know, like I said, with everything that was going on in my life.
Yeah.
And so basically traveling and realizing what I wanted to do, how I wanted to fund my travels. Yes, I had the contract work, but was it fulfilling? No, not in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Was it well paid? Yes. So that's why I obviously kept on doing it, but I still had all the side hustles. So in that time, I led an international media campaign to save the boat community where I was living in London.
Yeah.
I planned a wedding. I got married in that time.
Yeah. Wow.
What else did I do? Oh, I became an English teacher. So I did English teaching qualifications. So all these so I was constantly trying. So it's not like I suddenly went, oh, I'm going to become an SEO queen, right?
Yeah,
from the get-go. You know, that certainly didn't happen.
Let's try numerous things and all see where it lands, basically.
Exactly. But do you know what happened was when I got married, I went a bit like internet crazy. I was like contacting all the bloggers, and I was entering all the competitions, and I started writing for one of the blogs. And so it was great, because then actually that's how they found out. It's like, oh, Maddy does marketing. Like, this is a really useful skill.
Yeah.
So then I started teaching all these different wedding businesses all about how to market their businesses, how to do SEO. I started then getting invited to speak at things. Like, it all kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say naturally, because I was hustling. I really was hustling at the time, and I hate using that word, but that's exactly what I was doing. And I was just kind of going all in on it, you know, and I was just like seeing what worked. Just really seeing what worked. And actually that's when I realized the gap. So all these wedding businesses who basically didn't, like, they knew the old school ways of marketing, but they didn't know about the online stuff. Bearing in mind, this is 2012. You know, it was just like, what do we do with Instagram? What do we do with, how do we get found on Google? So I was teaching them that, and I was doing a lot of website reviews. I was also, in that time, I learned how to design websites professionally. I was writing for people. So I was really trying to be like a full stack agency. So I was doing a little bit of everything.
And were you doing that all on your own as well? Like, you were doing all that on your own to kick off?
To kick off, I did that on my own. And then, so this is obviously, I'd started sort of whilst I was traveling. And then in that, I ended my marriage, and I came back to England, and I decided to put in, like, basically go full time with this business. So that was March 2015. And so basically what I realized was, I was like, oh my God, like, I could really go for it here. I could really do this. So I moved in with my parents. I lived in their attic. I hadn't lived with them since I was 18, and it was wild. And they've moved. So they now live in Oxfordshire. They no longer lived in my hometown. So I knew no one. So I had no distractions, nothing.
I was going to say.
And basically I just focused on the business. And I remember the first full-time year I made like 20K or something. The first full-time.
So enough to kind of pay the bills, but nothing that makes you go, wow, this is going to be mega.
No, exactly. But also I had no bills because I was living with my parents. So basically I was just like, wow, I can't believe I've made this money. And then 2016 was when I started to really, like, the word just spread like wildfire. And I was like, okay, this is really happening now. Like, I'm doing this a lot. And then 2017 I made 80K. So I suddenly it just jumped, and I was like, okay, so this hard work. But that's when I started having a team. And I had like a team of different contractors. They're all in different time zones. I knew them all from traveling, and they were all great. I loved them very much. And like, you know, I didn't have any goals for the business. I was still like, let's just see what works. And I had a total like panic, like, oh my God, like, this is almost too busy. Like, what on earth? And
so it actually grown too big beyond actually, you know, it wasn't sustainable in terms of your happiness and health. It was gone too big too quick.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was in a car accident at the end of that year, and I got PTSD. And so I had to let the team go. I had to completely downsize. I was like, right, what do I, come on, this is not.
What do I want out of life?
Like, this is not, come on, like, why did I start this? I went to India, I did this thing, like, come on. And so, so it really, you know, it really was quite a bump in the road. And then I was like, right. So then I moved back to London in 2018, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to I'm gonna teach. This is what I want to teach the courses. The done for you services, they were coming to an end. I got some really amazing advice from someone who is I really my meditation teacher basically, and she was like, you're doing too much. You just need to look at what you actually love. Spend the next 7 days looking at what you love about your work. And that's what I did. And that's when I realized I love the teaching bit. So I launched my first course in 2018. And now 2019, basically I cut out the done for you services. I only have one done for you client. And then the rest is I teach courses, so group online courses.
Yeah.
I teach, I've got 2 membership communities. And it's just been amazing just to completely focus on what I actually love about this work and who I really love to work with. Because like also, you know, even just the decision to like work with female entrepreneurs, it was quite conflicting for me because I was like, but like, what if a man comes along and like gets upset? And I'm like, if a man gets upset, like, come on, like he's not my ideal client. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit like saying to a plumber, why can't you build me a house? Like, I really feel like it's that clear.
Yeah,
it's like, well, a plumber's like, well, I could build you a house if you really want, but like, you probably should get a builder.
Do you really want me
to?
Yeah.
You know,
no,
so
I mean, there is so much. I mean, this is why I love asking this story of our kind of like entrepreneurs on this show, because actually there is that's quite the journey. You know, like this is usually where I'd pick it apart and go, well, are you looking at building a sustainable business, or when did you decide to go for your niche? When did you realize that you wanted more of a sustainable lifestyle? I think you pretty much answered that really, really well. But you've been on quite a journey to get from, like you said, like being out in India and having a complete change of, due to recession, due to unemployment. That happens to a lot of entrepreneurs we have on this show. It's kind of, they've always thought they might do something, or they've kind of maybe thought they wouldn't set up a business, but they've ended up in something and gone, I'm going to make a go of this now. I can't take on another full-time role. And then it's turned into something, but it seems like it's evolved quite a lot and you're in a good place now. Are you happy with where the business is right now?
I am. The weird thing with courses and everything is because you've really got to manage the cash flow.
Yeah.
So back in January 2020, like I hired the wrong people for a project.
Yeah.
I call it like I like to call it like a series of bad business decisions. Like that's basically
Lemony
what
Snicket.
happened.
I can see this new thing. It's just like a series of bad businesses. I was like, is this for the kids or the parents? I don't know.
Yeah, completely. And I was completely broke. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was living in a house share in North London at the time, and I had to borrow money to pay my rent. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like I've got to cancel my business. And that wasn't the case at all. It was just a blip. Like basically I went all in on this launch, and the launch that I did like a couple of weeks later, and I got 25k in that launch, and I was like, oh great, okay, there we go. Like we're back in the game.
Yeah, let's keep it together here. It's like it's a blip. I read this surfing article this morning. It was saying life is about riding the waves as well. It's like it's surfing's got this philosophical element to it as well. But it was saying about how riding the waves, and sometimes they're choppy, sometimes they're perfect. And this is it. You just got to see that you're on a wave at the time, or that you're ready for the next one to come up.
Yeah, but for anyone who claims that their business is like like a graph with like just a constant going up line, that's a big fat lie, everyone. Like it's a massive lie. Like it'll be wiggly at best. And thing is, no one taught us how to run a business. Like I've hired coaches, I've been on courses, got them coming out my ears.
Yeah.
But until you actually start implementing the work, see how it works for you, what you want to do, how you want to show up in the world.
Yeah.
You're never going to implement all of the stuff that you paid to learn. You're never going to do that. So I really feel quite passionate about that, because like no one can ever force you to do the work, but also you do actually have to do the work to see the results. And it's like, oh, you mean I can't just spend all my time just thinking about the niche, just thinking about what I might do.
Of course.
A lot of people speak to me about, oh, I'm thinking of starting a business. What do you think? And I'm like, well, what do you think? Why do you want to start it? What's the gap? And then see if it's actually a need that people actually see that need to be fulfilled. Like I didn't know right from the get-go. I didn't have when I actually launched my business properly, when I went full time, I had no savings. I didn't have, like, oh, you're gonna have 6 months savings. You gotta do this. You're gonna have a whole business plan. I had none of that. I had absolutely none of that. I had a couple of leads and sheer determination, basically.
But you know what I mean? It kind of, I think I'm doing the maths right. It was about 10 years ago since you started on that
Yeah.
self-entrepreneur journey, and like give or take a few breaks or,
Yeah.
pivots, if you will do. But it's, it's worked out, and it'll continue evolving, I guess. There'll be good days, bad days, good months, bad months, whatever. But I think the question that I always ask of people who are in this boat before we go on to our, like top tips from you is, do you think you could ever go back now to a full-time salaried position? If a job came up with a great company, do you think you'd actually be quite tempted, or are you just like, I'm in this now for life?
I'm in this now for life. That's
Okay,
for
great.
sure.
I'm
I
going to get
remember when
a
I
brass plaque delivered to your house now that says this, just so you can never, ever, ever do it.
honestly, because of course, when you do have low moments, which we all do, it's completely human. Even I remember I was reading the article about Lionel Richie and his imposter syndrome, which I was like, Lionel Richie, come on. But yeah, turns out he's human too. So I think that, when I think about the low moments and I'm like, oh, screw this, I'm just going to get a job at McDonald's. I mean, what would come on? Like, I remember just looking at my calendar, I'm like, oh, when would I do all the stuff that I really love to do? I love creating space in my calendar. I love I moved into my own place last July, and I spent quite a lot of time, just basically looking after the home and just, all the other stuff that makes us human beings that is separate from work,
I think you're
so when
totally
would I have time to do that?
And I think, it's building that sustainable lifestyle as well around your interests. It's looking at what the priorities are in your life, really, and not just saying that obviously we all need money to, live, to do the things you want to do, to eat, to have accommodation, whatever, but it's getting the balance right as well there. And I think, I think it's for myself, when we talk to different entrepreneurs on this show, they are, the word sustainable just keeps coming up. It's like, are they buildings, some people do say, well, actually, in a few years' time, I want this to be a £5 million business or whatever, and I'm going to hire these staff, are going to do this. But for a lot of people, it's like they want to go on holiday 4 or 5 times a year. They want to see their friends and family more often. It's that they enjoy working out in the morning. And I think as well, a big thing is having a network. I mean, you said you have a meditation teacher.
Yes.
You have other friends, network, people in your field. Having that support network is so strong as well. It kind of keeps you grounded if you are having those bad days, good days, or whatever, just as your kind of like team, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur as well.
Completely, because I've really I've really seen the benefit of the support network, and people have said to me, but I don't have a support network, how do I find one?
Yeah.
And of course, one of them is obviously to come and join members of the EA membership community. There'll
be many plugs throughout the show, I can guarantee.
If you're not going to shout about your own thing, who is?
Oh, no, do it.
But also just seeking those people out. It's not like you suddenly become an adult and they're like, right, here's all the adult handbook things, including your network for life. I'm not like a big group person. I'm more like a couple of friends here and there kind of person. And so, I've got a little pub opposite my flat, which is amazing, like dangerous. And it's run by this awesome woman, and we've become pals. I'm like, well, this is great. So we just sit outside now, obviously, because it's quiet, obviously. And we just we have a little chat, and I'm like, this is great. And she's like, oh, I'm like, oh, is this how you get friends? Is this how you get friends as an adult? This is how you do it. I don't know. It
is. Yeah. It's like, oh, are we going to do this drink, or are we not going to do this drink? Yeah. Okay. Are we friends now? It's like, it's not just like calling around someone's house, but well, all I can say is I wish I was in London this afternoon to go out with, Crystal Palace areas, places, look for Maddy out on the street drinking a beer. Should be up for Jonny as well. Right. We're now moving through to where you can share your deepest, darkest, best secrets and tips with obviously any other solo entrepreneurs, small business owners, anybody who probably would find your, skills and skill sets relevant. So, I want to know, I'm going to put myself in that kind of, very first website I've created, maybe the first business, or I'm quite a new business. What are kind of maybe some of the basics I should probably get right before I launch my website, or want to start kind of seeing more traffic coming to my website? What SEO basics could I do myself?
Okay, so basically you can do SEO yourself for sure. This is this is why I teach it the way I teach it, because yes, there are agencies you can outsource it to, but at least you need to learn it yourself.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest you do is certainly have, not just rely on a one page or website. People are like, oh, but Maddy, I found it like for £3 and it's only one page. Yeah, there's a reason why it's so cheap. You know, like it doesn't mean it's good. So with your website, you need, yes, of course, you've got your homepage as default, but on your homepage, treat that as your shop window. So every service, every product range, create a section on your homepage about that with a link to an individual page about that service, about that product. You really want to introduce your business on the homepage. You want to give people a reason to click through. So just like we're walking past a shop, we see a beautiful shop window, we have a look at the things in the shop window, we're then encouraged to go in. That's what our homepage is. We then need a page per service, per product range, per product, for everything that we sell.
Yeah.
So like, say for example, I'll use a wedding photography example. Say I'm based in London, but I also like to photograph in Surrey, Buckinghamshire, Hertfordshire, the surrounding areas. I create a page for each of them.
Yeah.
I talk about the service. So when people go, oh, but Maddy, like, that'll be a lot of information being repeated, this kind of thing. Yes, but that's when you can start to get the blogs involved. So you've got your homepage, you've got your service pages, you've got your product pages. You also need a blog.
Yeah.
Google loves websites that are regularly updated. Why? Because it shows that we're on the ball, we're paying attention, we're offering value, we're being useful.
Yeah.
Google loves it because we love it. We love we don't like websites that are out of date and full of crap. Like we want websites that are full of relevant.
They're just not relevant over time if they're not updated, I guess.
Exactly. And the easiest way to keep a website regularly updated is to create a blog.
Yeah.
Now people kind of get terrified. They're like, but I'm not a writer, but I'm not this, I'm not that. Great. Document your experience. You know what? I made a massive mistake today, but here's how I solved it. Great.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, I just did this launch and here's 10 things I learned. You know what? Like, it doesn't have to be like, I think that so often, particularly as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to have everything polished, everything perfect. And particularly with a higher price point, you're like, oh, but I want to charge a lot, so therefore I have to look even more polished. Not the case. Not the case. In fact, I would say quite the opposite.
Right.
That's actually how you're going to generate the engagement as you go.
Yeah.
Because people are excited to be on the journey with you. They're excited to learn from you as you go. So if you are new, if you've got a brand new website, tell me about, great, you don't know which color option to go for your new product? Share it on social media. Give us the opportunity to get involved, So it all sort of then starts to tie in nicely. What do you say on social media with creating your website? So you've got your homepage, you've got your product and service pages, you've got your blog. What else do you need? You need an about page.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I hear a lot of, but I don't really like to talk about myself. I don't want to show a photo of myself. What are you doing if you're running a business and you're having a conversation with someone in the pub, a new contact, a new client? It's you. You're having the conversation, so tell your story. Now, like, it's all very well for me to say, you're like, but Maddy, you've got blue hair and like pink earrings and like, you're clearly very confident. Wasn't always like this. It's a constant, allow yourself to evolve. Say, if you've got a dog and 2 cats, show photos of them, like, we want to get involved with your story.
I guess be somebody who you might want to do business with or buy from, like you said, like you're building a relationship, I guess, with these people.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be bland and corporate, people buy from people. And particularly the past 12 months, we've just all been through hell, for goodness sake. Like, we need
to, right?
We need to, I think, if anything, we've all seen that we have actually got a human side. We've all seen each other's homes perhaps for the first time, and all this kind of thing. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that. So on your about page, tell the story. How did you get to this point? You can always go back and update it. If you're like, oh, I don't have a professional photo, great, get a photo shoot booked. There are loads of brand photographers out there. The importance of photography is obviously hugely important, but it's not just for your products and services.
Yeah.
Then you also, of course, need a contact page.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people then go, oh, I'll just bury a contact form at the bottom of my homepage or something. No, have it as part of the menu. Because what you want to be doing is you want to be driving your traffic towards that contact form. If you're an online shop, of course, you want it to be to the checkout page. But you've really got to think about, where am I driving them to? What's the funnel here?
Yeah.
So you're bringing them in through the blog, you're bringing them in through organic SEO, you're bringing them in from social media, and then you're getting them to either the contact page or the checkout page.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is that social media has a great big part to play in it. Not because it necessarily helps you with organic SEO, but because it helps you get the clicks to your website. And so it's all about not just putting your eggs in one basket, but really thinking about, okay, so how can I use social media to promote what I'm saying on my website? The way I like to say it is, social media is like the flyer for the gig, and the website is the gig itself. So like, basically you're bringing them in, you're giving them a taster. You're like, here, I've heard a snippet on Spotify, now I want to come to the gig,
Yeah.
So this is really like what I like to say. That's how it all kind of ties in. Because a lot of people are like, oh, haven't I got to treat Instagram like a whole separate website? No. Get the clicks through to your website. So that's really where I would start if I'm looking at the website for the first time.
Love the analogies. I love the metaphors. I love the easily explanation of exactly those kind of key areas to get right.
Good.
So much kind of amazing stuff in there. I'm right in thinking that SEO is a long-term game here. We're not expecting to see organic SEO results over the first couple of months. We don't expect to be page number 1 for something. Is that a fallacy, or are we, what are my expectations really of SEO, and why I should commit if I don't see immediate results?
That's a very fair question. I think that basically it certainly depends on how competitive your market is. So say, for example, you're going for, you sell wedding dresses. Actually, let's use a non-wedding example. You want to sell yoga classes, okay? You want to sell yoga classes in Manchester, right? So you talk about the fact that you sell yoga classes in Manchester. You've mentioned it all across your website. You're like, right, this is the different types of yoga classes that you can book. You've got a page for each of those, all this kind of thing. Now, if you see that actually, there's loads of yoga classes in Manchester, which I'm sure there are, it's a city. And so actually, how do I get some quick wins? Well, it can be a type of yoga. So the longer the phrase you're targeting, the easier it is to get to page 1. So for example, online Bikram yoga classes in Manchester will be a lot easier to rank on page 1 for than yoga classes on its own, right? So I would suggest going for some quick wins, because that will actually help motivate you. There's a brilliant tool called Keywords Everywhere. It only costs about $15 a year, $15 US. And basically it will tell you how popular a phrase is. So what you can do is, when you install it like a Chrome extension, and then basically you start testing out the different product names, different service names, different combinations with geographic locations, towns, cities, counties, countries. And then basically you see, okay, so actually Bikram spelt like this in this part, in the UK, whereas Bikram spelt like, something else in another place, so we've got to think about the spelling, the combination of the words, see how popular it is, and then add it to our website.
Of course. And I guess that just means relevancy as well. Like you said, you can do that, you can get some quick wins, you can expect it. I'm going to play complete devil's advocate. I've created my website. I feel like I've done a great job. Maybe I've got a part-time copywriter who's, helped me, write it, smarten it up a little bit, it's sounding quite professional. I've used keywords, websites, but it's still not really driving that much traffic to my site. When would be the time I would maybe come in for an audit with you? I mean, maybe that's what your answer is. Actually, that's the perfect time. But if you were going to do, say, like an audit of my business, my website, what maybe would it take from yourself to kind of, I know it might be like apples, oranges, or it's hard to give a suggestion now, but say I said use your services for say 5 hours or something like that to try and spruce up, what would be the main fundamentals? Would it literally just be going through optimizing every single area? Would it be kind of creating new pages? Like, if I was to go for a professional like yourself to try and kick things into gear?
Of course. So first of all, I'd review, how often are you sending people to your website? Right. So how often are you blogging? How often are you sharing the blogs? What are your link building strategies? So link building is, what I was mentioning earlier, where I was talking about getting bigger websites than you to link to you. So submitting your work, writing guest posts, getting mentions, in press, in articles, collaborating on different articles, all sorts of different ways to get bigger websites than you linking to you. So I look at that as well. I then look at, okay, so what's your overall marketing strategy? Because SEO doesn't just stand alone. It's like, how are you getting business generally? So many people say to me, I just want word of mouth bookings. Great, good.
Yeah.
How are you going to get them talking about you? Are you creating content online that they are sharing? Are you creating content that is constantly coming up in front of their faces? So they're like, oh yeah, I've got to recommend Maddy Shine. She's great. You know, you've got to create those conversation points. What are we all doing in lockdown? Staring at our screens even more than ever, right?
Yeah.
So if that's where the audience are, that's where we have to be.
So actually, fundamentally, it might not be my website is duff. You know, I'm quite happy with what I've done with it. I've got the pages, I've used online guides or even your website for some of the top free tips you give, but it's actually more about what I'm doing to drive people to the site. It's more about the marketing, advertising. That's the first bit of the funnel you need to get right.
Yeah. And then there's also a large part of it I see is that people are worried about being too visible. So whether that's, you know, the good old English vibe kicking in, that because we weren't taught how to be visible, we weren't taught that that's okay, or there's worried that you're too busy with bookings if you are too visible. There's that, you know, you're too busy trying to deal with all the sales. You're like, but what about this? So this is when you need to look at your time management. You need to look at your workflow. You need to look at your process. Now, these aren't sexy words to a lot of people. I know that, particularly entrepreneurs. We're creatives. We like the chaos. It's great. But actually, this is completely needed. And I'm a natural organizer. So this part has kind of come a little bit more naturally to me, but I spend a lot of time talking about it in my courses, in my one-to-one clients, talking about, okay, so what happens next? Before you know, what's the process? So can you actually deal with an email templates in this rather than having to manually do this? How actually can you automate certain things to make sure that actually your time is freed up, so you don't actually have to remember all this stuff?
Yeah, of course. And that again, you know, is brilliant because I guess, you know, it's like you said, it's generating authority, I guess, for your website. And actually, you know, if you're driving people there, you've got to make sure the content's great. But then, like you said earlier on, you know, you've got to make sure people feel comfortable making a purchase or even making an inquiry with you by quality content. Can't just be stuffed with keywords, but actually is to the end user who's not a robot reading it, goes, I don't even know what to do when I'm here. I'm just going to bounce and get out of here as fast as possible, really, if it's not relevant.
Exactly.
Just because you've said organization, and I've already asked you before we started taping about your background here as well. You know, I know you run your own community, and you know, for a lot of people out there, you know, building a community is such a strong driver of traffic. Or maybe not driver of traffic, but driver of business. But also, it's a great way for, you know, fostering kind of repeat customers or you know, like you know, helping other people. Can you tell me about the kind of community which you run, obviously, and obviously what the motivation was behind that, what the value it can offer, and again, maybe how that's developed into a service which obviously people pay for as well?
Absolutely. So basically I've had to create tiers. So I've got the free tier, then I've got my membership community, which is Visibility A, that's £25 a month. And then I've got my group online courses, which start around £500. And then I've got my one-to-one. Okay. So basically that's how I sort of walk people through it. And some people will kind of want to go back down the tiers, which is absolutely fine. Some people want to go up the tiers. Some people want to skip the tiers. Fine. But as long as they're clear in my mind. Now, what you can see behind me is a wall of Post-its. They're all my members. So the pink ones are all my Visibility A members, and the yellow ones are my other membership community, which is Gold Graduates. So what happens with my tiers is I've got a big free group, Seeking Exciting Opportunities, which is what my true meaning of SEO is. So which is where I do like lunchtime Facebook Lives every Tuesday, talk about different topics. Like I drop in tips, people ask questions, you know, there's like a nice kind of community feel in there. And then I've got my Visibility A paid membership community, which is basically where I do like monthly trainings, get guest experts in. I've got resources and templates and all that kind of jazz. And then I've got my Blog for Gold, which is like a 12-week online course. So I've got Facebook groups for each of these different things. And then I've also got Facebook groups from each of the different launches that I've done over the past coming on 18 months now. So I've got about 4 different Facebook groups for that as well. So I've got many different communities. Plus I've got my Instagram community,
Yeah.
which is basically where, you know, obviously everyone who's following me there.
Yeah.
And I've also got my podcast, which I launched in lockdown. And so I've got people, basically, obviously for a visibility expert, I need to show up.
Yeah.
But also, if I try to get in there every single day, like I'd send myself crazy. Like I wouldn't be able to do that. No, that's not going to happen. But I make it look like that, you know. So it's very much. I love the online community vibe. I love it very. You know, like I said, it's always been a passion of mine ever since I was a teenager. But really, like the benefits of it are that I gain a lot more perspective. I get support and accountability from, you know, where I'm even a member of other communities where I don't actually have to host the ones, you know.
Yeah.
And then I find that it's a great way. It's great for market research, fantastic market research. It's fantastic for simply seeing what people's needs are and how I can create a product offer to support that. So yeah, I just think the benefits in an online community are massive.
And I guess
yeah.
And I guess there's two wins maybe from this. Is one is that I guess people learn from each other, and the emphasis isn't constantly on you having to be you're maybe the organizer, the facilitator, but there are many conversations and relationships developing between the people who are part of the community. So it's kind of almost helping support doing your job for you as well. And I guess you get word of mouth leads and stuff for your business, and other people who want to join the community as well come from this as well. Would you say they're the main value you feel you get out of it, beyond obviously you know it's a product for you, but you know?
Well, for me, I treat everyone as human beings rather than as, you know, I think that a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves when they're hosting online communities to kind of like, oh, you know, what's the lifetime value of that member? And I'm just like, crumbs.
You're like, well, I hope they don't die or something, because the lifetime values ruined my spreadsheet or something. It's just like, it
feels so for me it's like, okay, what journey is that person on? What are their needs? How am I helping them? How am I moving them forward? And so I really kind of see, you know, some people don't want to go on that journey. They're just like, no, I just want you to give me all the answers. Fine, that's great. So we create different ways to meet together. So, you know, I think that, you know, we've got accountability buddy system in my Visibility A community. We've got Q&A and hot seat calls in that community as well. So people have the time with me, but they also get to know each other. They also get to, because everyone does different things, you know.
Of course.
I don't think we've got too many people in the community who like do the same thing, and certainly not in the same area, and certainly not in the same way. So it's really great for them to all learn from each other, because like I find that that's just like the best way. When I hang out with people who don't do what I do, like it's fantastic. Like I've been to SEO conferences. They are not interesting places to be. Like you know, like no shade on them, but I did not find them interesting. And I was like, well, this is why I created my job, because I want to make it sound interesting. I want to I'm passionate about you know.
I mean, and like you said, you've developed a really strong niche and brand and everything. And I love what you're saying as well about perspective. You know, you get other people's perspectives that aren't, say, pigeonholed in terms of that vertical or that business area or whatever. So community is a massive thing. And you're like, it's such a sticky element in terms of bringing people together, because if you make it fun and you make it actually valuable to people, then it's a lot more than just saying, here's some SEO stuff that you found on YouTube that's random, and some of that stuff is okay, obviously, for learning the basics. But I think when you want to ask questions and think stuff through and see from a different perspective, and like you said, try and make SEO sexy, it's a good way of doing it. So don't worry, we're going to link to this to obviously your community as well on our blog, and obviously on our YouTube channel as well after this. So don't worry, we'll build up that community together. Right. You'll be pleased to know now, Maddy, that we're going to a rapid fire round. So you know, feel free to make it as rapid as you want, or add a little bit of flavor if you obviously want to explain things a little bit more. So who are your favorite entrepreneurs in life and why?
Well, isn't that a big question? I've been you asked me this beforehand. I was like, okay, who are they? I love there's various different people on Instagram that I love following. There's one woman called Vivian Kay, who is the funniest person I follow right now on Instagram. She runs a business selling hair products for like Afro hair products, I believe. to be honest, I don't even like really know too much about her business, because her personal Instagram is hilarious.
Yeah.
She is all about teaching confidence to women. So obviously I'm all for that. But she is just so, she's just so inspiring. And she's
Yeah.
based in Canada, so I love following her.
Yeah.
Vivian K. And there's also Talking Shrimp. Love Talking Shrimp. She's a copywriter in New York City. Who am I? New York. And and basically she's hilarious too. Basically anyone who makes me laugh and learn. Oh my goodness, how cheesy is that? But I love
perfect balance.
Yeah. And it's something that I really aspire to. Anyone who makes me laugh and learn. I'm like, yeah, you're laughing and learning. It's great. And so basically it's those two people, but I also love Seth Godin. Love him. So I subscribe to his daily blog, which lands in my inbox, always inspiring, often quite short. It's like he knows his audience. He's been blogging daily for like 20 years or something, which is an amazing habit. I'm a big fan.
Been a big fan of Seth for many years as well. I get his daily updates, and I think he's quite the Renaissance man as well. I remember reading about how he makes his own vodka. Even though he's teetotal, doesn't drink alcohol, but he loves the process, and actually gifts this to all his friends every year and says, "I've just tried some new thing, these flavored vodkas and all this." So I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But he's just like, he just does it because he enjoys it. True. So he's a good guy. And using Seth Godin as a good segue as well. Are there any kind of great business books or online resources you point people towards if they're running a small business who might want to get the SEO basics right, or anything else which you feel has actually really helped you on your own entrepreneurial journey as well?
Yeah, so obviously for SEO basics, come and download my freebies, which will be linked in the show notes.
Perfect. That's only the sixth plug, but I like this.
For that, for sure, from me. But for business books, the one that I've really found useful recently is called Essentialism. And it's by a guy called Greg McKeown. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And basically, I am obsessed with this book. I keep talking about it to everyone at the moment for the past few months. It really helped me streamline even my thinking, just like cut out loads of stuff. Like I'm always about how can I streamline? How can I simplify, because actually when we keep things simple, we're more inspired to do something about it. And in my book. And so I love this, Essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less. It's incredibly powerful. He uses examples from business, but also
from
around the world.
Really
for sure. So I absolutely love that. But also, any of Seth Godin's books. Love Purple Cow, brilliant book.
Yeah, Purple Cow comes up a lot here. It's good.
I bet a lot of people talk about it. Yeah. Also, if you're struggling on where to start with, particularly with naming your business, like building a brand, Hello, My Name is Awesome is a fantastic book.
Okay, that's good.
Really recommend that one. And to be honest, I've got a whole pile of business books sitting on my shelf, which I haven't, and I'm like, great, they look really good on my shelf. I have not read them, but I tend to find that with learning about business, I tend to find I learn more from blogs and social media, and obviously buying the courses rather than the books, because particularly with marketing, a lot of stuff is completely out of date by the time it's even published. So I love more like mindset stuff and things like this. So I work a lot on my mindset. I work a lot on myself, because I'm the one running the business. I've got to think about that self-care. And so really when I do read, then it tends to be like meditation books and things like that.
I must admit, I'm enjoying reading the Bruce Lee book, Be Like Water, at the moment. It's definitely worth reading. It's actually written by his daughter, but it's all about his philosophy and freeing the mind and being more flexible. And obviously he was a meditator and martial artist, but his philosophical learnings are just as important as his martial arts. It's definitely worth picking up. It's Be Like Water, very, very good. Well, I don't think I've ever recommended my own a book that I'm reading on this show as well. So it's who would have thought it only took up to episode 16. If there was one thing that you could do to if there was one thing you could do every day to make your business grow, and you only got to do one thing, what would be the most important thing you feel you could do day in, day out?
make my business grow, it would be showing up at least one of the places I'm online. Showing up one of the places. I think that to run the business, I'd be checking my cash flow every day.
Yeah.
But to grow the business, it's choosing one of those places that you're online, where your audience is, and show up. Yeah, for sure.
Instagram maybe is the hot one.
I mean, Instagram's a sexy one right now, isn't it? But a lot of people don't like Facebook groups so much. I'm a massive fan of Facebook groups because obviously I've got a few. Yeah. I love showing up there, at least one of the Facebook groups. I always make sure I show up at Instagram anyway. I love Instagram. It definitely feels like there's like a more intimate vibe there sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically find some excuse to show up, and even if you're just walking the dog.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I have it on my calendar every day and actually don't remember that. Sometimes I'll always want to do something on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, but actually, it's sometimes it's the last thing on the to-do list, and sometimes it gets forgotten. Whereas actually, maybe that is a real priority, just to emphasize that and to start off the day maybe by doing that as well.
Yes, for sure.
What would you do differently if you could do it all over again? I mean, you're not one to look back. I know it's about mindset, whatever. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom, but if, it's all about learning from your mistakes. If we can help other new entrepreneurs, not make as many mistakes, what is one thing that maybe you wish you could do differently if you could do it over again?
Not listen to the negative voices in my head.
Yeah.
I wish that I see how often, and sometimes, to some extent, you said warts and all, so to some extent I still do.
Yeah, please do.
But I sort of go, yes. No. Like I take 5 steps forward and then like 3 steps back.
Yeah.
And it does not serve me. It does not serve me at all. And but I do it now, and I don't beat myself up about it, which obviously means I save a lot of time. But like I have done that so much with my business, and actually I really need to develop more long-term goals, which I've been doing the past couple of years, and they've worked really, really well. And then broken down, how do the tools and options available to me help me deliver those goals?
Yeah.
And then have the confidence to simply go for it. Only spend time with people who support me wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Communicate with those people better. I am not good at like telling people, I'm like, you know what, guys, I'm not doing so great right now.
Yeah.
I over the past 18 months, much better, but like before that, not so great. So I think that, communication, taking care of myself as I go, going for it, no holds barred. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
I like that. That's going up on our blog as well, I can guarantee you. As an entrepreneur, this might have changed maybe a few times over years, but right now, what ultimately does success mean to you as an entrepreneur?
Feeling fulfilled. Feeling fulfilled.
Okay.
Feeling fulfilled. It sounds so cheesy, like fulfilled by the work fulfills me. No, the work doesn't fulfill me all the time, and that's okay. The rest of my life also has to fulfill me. And I work with various different coaches at the moment. I'm working with a life coach who is showing me like, who's Maddy outside of the work,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, excuse me, right, okay. And of course, like Maddy Shine was born from me. I'm not gonna be able to like sell the brand or anything like that. I'm just gonna be looking at constantly like, okay, how do I feel fulfilled today? Like, what am I doing to take care of myself? Like, I don't want to be like, like when you're like, oh, I won't take the lunch break right now. It's suddenly 4 p.m. and I also desperate to go to the toilet, and I haven't, like, and then wiggling in your chair and you're like,
I'll just get this thing done or whatever. Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like 7 p.m. and you haven't like spoken to anyone all day, and you're like, oh my God, what am I even doing? Like, I should just cancel myself. Like, what a waste of space, and then it's just messy. So I'm really kind of looking at the whole of my existence.
I love this. I love the fact you have staff, to borrow an American as well. You've got the life coach, the meditation coach. We need these people, if it keeps you on the straight and narrow and grounded, like in terms of where you're at, then we need these people. I think it's very healthy.
Completely. Human beings are pack animals. We are not designed to be on our own.
Yeah.
I know it's don't laugh, but I'm an introvert. I am. I'm an introvert. I get my energy from within myself, but I also need a lot of time to recharge in between things.
Yeah.
I am not someone who is constantly on. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, let's just see what's needed. So actually, when I look at how I want to be supported in my life, yes, I've got a fantastic family, I've got a great friendship group, but like, I also see that I need very, very specific support in different areas. And it's only, and I mean, if you had said to me a few years ago, yes, Maddy, in 2021, you're going to have a life coach, I would have laughed. I would have been like, no way.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. So like, you can't knock it.
Do it. I mean, honestly, yeah, I think that's a great tip. And, you know, hopefully I'll see you before this, but, you know, if I was to bump into you in the street in 3 or 4 years time and said, Maddy, you know, how's business going? You know, what's your kind of vision of where you want the business to be in 3 or 4 years time from here?
Well, isn't that a big question? So of course, you knew I was going to have a vision board because I've got a life coach and a meditation teacher. So I'm definitely going to have a vision board.
Oh, yeah.
I've got Pinterest boards, which are different.
See it now.
Yeah, exactly. Which are vision boards for different areas of my life, right? So basically, I will have a villa. You heard it here first. I will have a villa abroad, and I will host retreats there for women. And basically, I will be doing a lot of public speaking, which I do already, but I'll be doing more. I'll have written a book, at least one book by then, hopefully two. Not necessarily business related, but essentially I just want to, everything's going to be much more elevated. So I'll still be teaching courses. I'll still be supporting women, but in a bigger way, for sure. Yeah. So
brilliant.
yeah.
That
Watch
sounds
this
good.
space.
Yeah. Well, I'm not invited to the villa, everybody, but I think Beth and everybody else, I'm sure we'll have a great time as well. So brilliant. So a final question I've got for you, Maddy, is remind everybody where they can find you online, or where do you want to send people to, where they learn and get all these great free resources, and also find your courses as well.
Absolutely. So you can find everything you could possibly want on my website, maddyshine.co.uk. You can come and follow me on Instagram, maddy.shine. You can come and join my free Facebook community, Seeking Exciting Opportunities. You can listen to my podcast, the High Vis Podcast, your biz bestie for visibility. And in fact, even if you just want to dabble just dip your toe into the Maddy Shine waters, you can use my gifts, which have gone viral in lockdown, which is wild.
I was going to say, there's a lot of gifts on your website. Yesterday, I was like, where's those sunglasses? It's just like,
yeah. So basically, I created my own gifts back in May last year, so lockdown 1. And it started off with like 20 gifts, and now I've got over 350 gifts out there. But anywhere that you use gifts, WhatsApp, Instagram, anywhere like that, you just search for Maddy Shine, and you'll see them all. But also I come up with common expressions. So like what she said, that's what she said, time for gin, like all these funny little things. I just come up for them, right? So at the moment, 238 million people have seen my face, which is kind of strange.
Even from my lame maths, that's a 10-12% of the population of the planet or something like that. So.
Yeah, that's I mean
it's just pretty great.
It's kind of strange. I feel like 10 million of those are at least my family, but it's so funny. So I think that for me, gifts were such a perfect fit for the brand, but honestly, they're great for visibility. They start conversations all the time. So yeah, that's also what you can do.
Amazing. And I will basically go and look at my maths and realize I was miles off, but I'll stay, which is the most important thing. Right. First off, I just want to say thank you very much, Maddy. We've appreciated you here. Maddy Shine, been on the Go Solo show. So many great tips and inspiration and everything for loads of solo entrepreneurs and small businesses out there. So good luck for the future for your business, and thanks for joining us today. Good luck. Thanks. Speak to you soon.
Thanks so much, Jonny. Thanks
a lot, Maddy. Take care.